Okay, this is going to be hopefully, if not the last video that I'm going to shoot on the gift character of life. And if people want to shoot a response to it, I would just ask that people either, go watch all of the videos that I've done on it, and I'll see if I can put a playlist there for it, or just wait until the Sources of Significance book comes out. I guess there's just continues to be a lot of misunderstanding, and I think part of it comes down to a either a disagreement or a misunderstanding about strategy for trying to critique the religious fundamentalist dogmatic types. I think that's partly what it is. I think I share with a lot of people who are seem to be in disagreement with me. I think I share a lot of sensibilities with them, but I think we're disagreeing on strategy. And it's also, if there is a disagreement, I think the disagreement comes down to one maybe just critical factor about, can we admit or acknowledge or begin the haggle, let's say it that way. Can we begin the haggle over, is humanity a difference of degree that becomes a difference of kind? See, I mean, so much of Gregory Bateson's work is about little differences that after a while, those differences of degree become a difference of kind. I wonder if that isn't the case with what we mean by the human intellect. And I think one of the ways to maybe shout this out is to tell people that really you need to go check out the Superlative Among Superlatives, this video that was posted today by Dana Garrett. And here's what Dana says at the very end of that video, which I think the video itself is wonderful. But listen to this last comment that he gives.
And there is something intellectually dishonest about denying that the human animal is an evolutionary superlative, even among other superlatives.
Okay, and see, that was really, again, this wonderful line where he's wanting to ask if we can acknowledge that there does seem to be a categorical difference between humanity and the rest of the natural world. Now, this isn't to deny intelligence to animals. It's not to suggest that there isn't robust diversity all throughout the animal kingdom. I mean, I think we can acknowledge that each organism lives in its own sphere, that each creature has its own superlative capacities to be in the world in a way that serves its own interests or its own capacities, right? I mean, the cockroach is well designed for its environment. But I think when we start to talk about what happened to that organism that we call the human, and I'm talking about us, all right? When we talk about what is it that happened, in the language that I'm trying to use, is that we could say somehow along the way a profound self-awareness set in, a self-reflexive consciousness that was so released and separated from its environment that it was able to take the world and its very life as a kind of a gift. Now, when I say it's a gift, I'm not suggesting it's a wonderful, happy, pleasant thing. Maybe that is the hang-up. Gift, I've tried to suggest on several fronts. One, it means it's something that came undeservedly. It's something that just was thrown upon you. It also means that there is a kind of experience of it as something given to you that you are a kind of receiver to that, even if there isn't a giver of the gift. And the point that I've tried to make about if there isn't a giver of the gift, and this has been so much the critical argument, is that I've tried to suggest on more than one occasion that human psychology had a need to invent the gods, partly to imagine there could be someone to whom the gift could be repaid or in some way negotiated, because a gift often implies an exchange of gift. That because gift and guilt are very related, would be a different way to say that, which is one of the ways to say what is it that is the gift that humans bear. Well, it is this kind of self-awareness. It's the kind of reasoning capacity that humans have, but it is also the sense of guilt. Guilt is part of the gift, and that's maybe the way that I can explain this further. When I say that it's a difference of strategy, and then it comes down to an issue of strategy, I think that Dana's right-minded here in his video. Because what he's saying is that there are too many atheists who, in their eagerness to show that the religious dogmatic people are incorrect, they're being disingenuous about a fact that really does seem to be glaring, that humans do seem to be qualitatively different. And it has to do with everything about humanity. And it's not to say that we're not animals. See, I think that the fear of some atheists is that this is a bad strategy. See, I think some atheists out there, I think they think it's a bad strategy because they fear that as soon as you acknowledge that humans are different, well, then you fall into humans are better, they're made in God's image, all this kind of degradation of nature and degradation of animals that religious dogma licenses. I understand. I guess I disagree on the strategy. I think that we have to acknowledge the difference, say from a zoological, biological, evolutionary perspective, there was an evolution such that cultural evolution with language and had to do with the hands and the upright posture and the particular brain interacting with communication technologies. But somehow this self-aware organism emerged to such a degree of individuality and inward self relation that it could experience the world as a gift and then experience a kind of a guilt from an unrepayable gift, and then the gods became a unconscious projection. And it was a projection that I think, see now, and some of this gets difficult because in the videos, it's really hard to talk about it, especially in terms of how it began. I mean, in some of the early videos I was talking about, at some levels I was talking about socio-historical guilt and how it relates to money and literacy. At other points I was talking about natural guilt as it relates to human consciousness. I think there is, at least in the sources book, I try to lay it out in terms of both of those kinds of guilt, and then to get at the way that different whole collectives try to address that. Here I'm just going to focus on the way that there seem to be differences in the way that different atheists might attack the religious dogma here. So let's just take as an example here of the way that, say, two people, just as an example, would be like Phil Heleni's in his video called Who'd Start a Religion, and then Pat Condell in his Children of a Stupid God. Both of these, again, great videos. People should check them out. I think they're very important for people to think about. But their strategy is one where they're suggesting that the way to combat religion is to fight against its imposition, that it's a top-down phenomena, and that people want to avoid becoming like dogs, and they don't want to just obediently fall in line with these elder oppressors who are out to hoodwink the youth into these ideologies that serve their interests. Now, as much as that may be part of the dynamic that's going on, that's not going to be sufficient from my perspective. We do need something more akin to, first, Dana's point, which is there is a categorical difference. This categorical difference of self-awareness introduces an awareness of oneself, an awareness of one's own death that encapsulates one's life as a whole, which renders it to seem to be some sort of a gift, that also then encumbers a feeling of guilt. And then people, they try to expiate that guilt by imagining some God that they could repay, right? I mean, this is part of it. I guess the point that I would try to make here is that it isn't the concern over the top down. What we need is more than defenses against downwardly coming oppression. What we need are an understanding of the evolution of self-reflexive consciousness in nature. That nature itself has slowly released a place and moment of itself, which is self-reflexive to a degree that it has encumbered a kind of guilt. And I think earliest peoples, collectivist peoples, they tried to manage that guilt with sacrifice and with stories of gods who could receive their gifts back. See, it's not just that life is a gift without a giver, it's that when humans then projected their own need for the gods was a need to have some sort of receiver for their ability to pay back what it was experienced as a gift. Now, when I say experienced as a gift, too, I want to talk about this. I'm not just suggesting that life itself, point blank, is some sort of gift. That's not the point. I mean, metabolic processes are going on in my body right now. I mean, there's digestive processes going on, there's respirative processes going on, but those aren't open to the gift character. When I lay down and I fall asleep and I'm literally submerged, not aware of anything, there's no conscious awareness of the transpiring of time, I'm not open to the gift character. Even if say I'm awake and I'm really groggy, or if I'm, I don't know, mindlessly just going about my affairs, I might not be, directly aware of the gift character, but it comes as a feeling, sort of washes over us at maybe a moment where it could be a near-death experience, it could be some traumatic experience, it could just be a beautiful day where suddenly we're reminded of the mystery of our very being and our dependence on a kind of mystery that, a lightning bolt could hit you at any instant. It's hard to think of how we're aware of the contingency of one's life. I mean, I think animals react to their environments, but humans react to the possible environments that they can imagine, which includes the worst possible scenario, and that itself is a kind of rendering of life, again, as a gift. Not a present, not a prize, not a great thing. If anything, it is the gift that includes guilt, because it is a gift that cannot be repaid, and humans have tried to create some way to repay it. I think it's also that part of the problem here is that we expiate this guilt in different ways. I think, unfortunately, some people feel the guilt of existence so much that they're willing to do horrible things in the name of these gods who will receive the gift of their self-sacrifice. See, I think so much of Becker's work is about terror management, it's about suicide bombers, and the logic that they're operating by. Now, the people who become fanatical suicide bombers and want to go kill, and they want to make their life a life of self-sacrifice as a gift for the gods to repay the very gift of their life. This is my concern, right? What is the appropriate response to the felt gift character of life? What we need to do is to ask the question of what are those ways of first recognizing that humans are qualitatively distinct. It's not to say that they're better. If anything, it's a fall. It's a kind of encumbrance of a burden. It's an expanded range of experiences that includes both, greater burdens and responsibilities, but greater senses of amazement and wonder. It's the whole. It's an expanded range. It's not just one thing. I think that we need to be able to understand that people are different without putting them on a pedestal. I think we also really do need to ask, how can we manage this sense of guilt? People need to learn a kind of naturalism, a fully robust biological naturalism that makes room for the adequate mystery of it, and which tries to minimize the horror that comes from people responding to their own self-awareness and their sense that life is a kind of gift. Thank you.